Happy Thursday, y'all. Hi, Jackie. Happy Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. Welcome, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Transforming Trauma Podcast with Dr. Triffy. It is Thursday night. Share the live. Share the live. Let other people know that we have started and we're going to talk about Sukuya and Jombi and spirits. How are you? I hope you're having a lovely week. This is a serious topic. It's very serious. It's very serious because the level of pain that a lot of people are seeing and experiencing and feeling is a lot when it comes to this issue that I'm going to talk about. So, y'all know me. I'm Dr. Triffy. On Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I show up on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube to talk about psychological issues, trending topics, and my intention is to offer you skills, tips, strategies to support you, to support your mental health, to support your family's mental health, to help you with your kids. Okay? Tonight, I wanted to talk about this topic because I grew up in Dominica. Dominica is not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. They speak Spanish, we speak English, and the French Creole. We also speak an English patois called Kokoy, and we speak Kalinago language. Kalinago are our indigenous people of Dominica. So I grew up in Dominica, and one of the most core stories, let me say it like this. There's a story that my pops told me and told us when I was little that stays with me and stays with me and stays with me about a lugau. What is a lugau? If you grew up in the Caribbean, if you grew up in the French Caribbean, you're familiar with spirits, and we have names for different types of spirits. One of them is a lugau. A lugau is supposed to be a male demon, a male spirit. Now, the way my dad tells the story, he was leaving our little village of Carthage, which is in the north of Dominica, and going down to the second town of Portsmouth. We are Catholic, and so in those days, they had to walk from the villages to the town to get their catechism. Catechism is religious education, religious training as a Catholic. And he said he was going down early in the morning, and he saw a big man, and the big man's legs were wide open, and he was horrified and terrified, but he ran through the legs of the big man. Now, as a child, when you hear these kinds of stories, you're completely terrified, but who knows if it's true? That's his recollection, and who knows if he didn't just make up that story. But I'm telling you, when they would sit and they would tell us stories about spirits and what we call jombi. Jombi in the Caribbean is a word for a zombie. Spirits, dead people and their spirits. I remember being very terrified as a kid. Now, in Dominica, culturally, Catholicism is about what? Maybe about 70%. You all type in the chat if you think that's about right. It might be even higher. Perhaps 70% of the population is Catholic. And you mix Catholicism and the mystery and the mysticism about Catholic the Catholic faith with African spirituality, and you have this kind of combination in the culture in Dominica of almost everything having some sort of supernatural meaning. So, if I were to be practicing in Dominica, and if I were to be practicing as a culturally competent psychologist in Dominica, I would need to know about that part of the culture. Why? Because sometimes people are said to have spirits or demons. But in psychology, there's a phenomenon that very closely mirrors how people are said to act when they are under the influence of spirits and psychosis. So, tonight, I'm going to talk about and try to teach, especially my Dominican listeners and my Caribbean listeners tonight, because I think this is most applicable to you. I don't know that I have worked with many clients over here who have that kind of experience. I might hear people tell me something like, well, I think I saw my mom, or say a relative passes, I saw them in a dream. That's a little bit similar, but I don't know that I've ever worked with someone who has said they put a spirit on so and so. Okay? Now, I want to talk about this additionally because during this week, there was a mother on Facebook who was actually actively asking for help and asking for support because she was very distressed that her daughter, she said, was possessed. She said clearly her daughter was speaking in ways and saying things that were not making a lot of sense to her, and she was terrified that her daughter might not be able to get well. So that's another reason I'm offering this topic tonight. So, y'all, how do you differentiate between demonic possession and something like schizophrenia or another psychotic related illness? And there are several, okay? I am basing tonight's teaching on a chapter of a book. And if you are interested, I encourage you to go find the book. The book is by Pastor Stephen Waterhouse. And I'm looking at an article review that focuses on one chapter of his book. Now, the title of his book is Strength for His People, a Ministry for Families of the Mentally Ill. So tonight we're marrying spirituality with psychology, okay? The person who wrote that article, his name is DJ Jaffe. I've got to give everybody credit for their work, yeah, which is why this is taking a little longer than I normally take. But DJ Jaffe, he himself is an advocate for people with mental health challenges. And he said he picked up the book at a NAMI convention. Now, what's a NAMI? What is NAMI? If you have a family member who's suffering from a mental health anything, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, is an organization you want to go to. Go to their website and you'll get a lot of information to support you, to help you understand what is happening with your child, with yourself, with your relative. Okay, so he said he found that book at a NAMI convention and he did a little review on the chapter related to demon possession and psychosis. Okay? All right. Now, what is psychosis, y'all? What is psychosis? Before I do that, I think I started off saying that I want you to come because some psychologists believe in spirits too. And that is true. And that is true. Tonight's session is going to be useful for a lot of you who have a strong belief in your Christian faith and or you're Catholic or you're in any type of religious organization that also believes in demon possession and spirits. Yeah. Also, I want to help the people, like I said, who might be themselves, or you have a relative who's struggling with a psychotic disorder of some sort. So, psychosis is, I want to look at it from three angles. From the body angle. We're body, we're mind, and we're spirit. So, in the body, your brain, this is a brain-based disorder. It's a neurobiological disorder, okay? Mental illnesses like schizophrenia, psychotic disorder. You might have some people who have schizoaffective disorder might show up with some of these psychotic symptoms. There are people who have what is called delusional disorder. There are some people who, when they take in a certain substance, even cannabis, can induce a psychotic disorder. So you do know some of your relatives who, when they smoke weed, they just kind of, to you, we say they go off. Your pet tet. Yeah, I'm speaking Creole. Pet tet means lost their head. Okay. And those illnesses can strike anybody from any home. It doesn't matter how religious or spiritual or devoted or Christian you are. Why? Because this is brain-based. It's biology, right? It's a mental disorder that is characterized by what we say in Creole in Dominica, ped tet, which is a disconnection from the present reality. Okay? Let's look at it from a mind level, from a psycho-spiritual level. In psychology, in certain branches of psychology, in certain areas like, say, hypnotherapy, practitioners believe in what are called attachments or entities, or another category is elementals, or thought forms that can impact a person in a very negative way. So some practitioners believe, for example, that trauma, when you're hurt and from the shock of trauma, a lot of us become open to subtle energy forms, yeah, quote unquote, attaching to your personhood, your personality. Okay. I'm not going to go very deep into this. There are several layers of your self. There's a physical self. There are various different quote unquote selves. Okay, one day I'll do a teaching on that. But these thought forms, these attachments, these entities could be said to cause a lot of havoc in a person's life from a psycho-spiritual point of view. Now, you also know from a spiritual point of view that there is the idea of spirits and demonic possession. Okay? There is that idea. So the concept of devils and heaven and hell in Catholic faith or in Christian faith, that's very normal for most people. In the Caribbean, that's very normal for people from West Africa. We are known for our voodoo and other practices. We call it obia. Some of us call it obia. Where it is thought that somebody could put something on another person. That something meaning a spirit. Now, so it's common for people to say a relative is possessed. Somebody put something, a spirit, on the other person. Now, if you read the New Testament talks about demons, yeah? Over 100 times, actually, yeah? And so even those people who are not necessarily Christian, or, you didn't grow up in any organized religion, a lot of people believe in the idea of spirits, yeah, and supernatural things that maybe we don't always understand. But many Christians, and many Christians in the Caribbean, in Dominica, will very quickly assume and state to you that a family member's battle with psychosis is probably about a demonic possession or attachment. I think that's important. And like I said, if I were being a culturally competent practitioner in Dominica, my responsibility is to listen to the people based on their belief system, not on what I think, based on their belief system, and to start there and to work with them from where they are showing up. Okay? If you're Christian, the Bible makes distinction between demonic possession and, say, a physical illness, right? So the pastor who wrote this is also a doctor. I'm not sure what doctor he is, but he's Dr. Stephen Waterhouse. In the book, he shares 6 things to look for if you grew up in a family where you completely believe in Lugau and Sukuya and spirits, yeah? But you also know that your child could have a brain-based illness. How can you tell? Now, Pastor Stephen Waterhouse himself has a brother who suffers from schizophrenia. So do you see, he had a family member and he had his Christian beliefs about demonic possession, but watching his brother is one way he himself learned how to distinguish. Okay? So, Dominica people, Jean Saint-Lucie, Jean Haiti, Jean Guadeloupe, Martinique. Listen to these 6 things to look for to help you distinguish. Who do I call? Do I call the APU, which is the, the psychiatric unit, or do I call Father or best priest? Okay, for that. All right, so number 1, Dr. Waterhouse says to look for attraction to versus aversion to religion. What does that mean? He says, well, demons want nothing to do with religion and Christianity. So, people who have what is a biologically based illness will still be okay keeping their faith. Okay? They'll still be okay with their Christianity if that's their religion. But he says, if the person, it doesn't want anything to do with their faith, perhaps as they used to, that might be one sign to help you distinguish. Is this demonic possession? Do I need to call the priest or do I need to call a psychologist? Okay. Number 2, he says, look for irrational speech versus rational speech. Dr. Waterhouse says, in the New Testament, there are accounts involving demons, right? We believe these things. A lot of us believe these things. And there are many accounts where the demons speak, and they speak in a rational manner. They actually, when you think about it, people with schizophrenia or with psychosis, they don't speak rationally. That's one symptom. Their thinking is they will create new sentences, new words. They're called neologisms. They put their words all together. They're called word salads. They speak what we might think is nonsense, and they might jump from topic to topic that doesn't seem to make sense to you. They might go off on a tangent. But Pastor Waterhouse, Dr. Waterhouse is saying, if you're looking for what might come under the category of demon possession, the demon is going to be speaking, what the person is saying is going to be very rational. Okay? Number 3, look for ordinary learning versus supernatural, highfalutin knowledge. Demons, he says in the New Testament, would speak through people to convey knowledge that otherwise could not have been known to the possessed individual. A person with a regular brain chemistry situation that is causing them to speak in a way that you're like, what are you saying? Or they're telling you, I'm seeing things, and you're like, I don't see it. They're saying, I'm hearing things. I don't hear that. Or they're feeling things, and you're saying, I don't see it on your body. Those people have no such ability to tell you things about yourself. They can't tell you things about yourself that you didn't that you didn't share with them. So that's number 3. Number 4, look for normal versus, I'm using the word occultic. I know it's so loaded for us in Dominica. So I'm going to change it and I'm going to say secret, hidden phenomena, because that's another meaning for occult. Okay? When we hear occult, we think about seriously, we think about big time, high grade supernatural stuff. So when I use it in that context, I want you to think about just strange activity, unexplainable, hidden. I don't know how this happened. So normal versus strange phenomena. So there's an aspect, he says, to demon activity that is just plain spooky, like telepathy. Telepathy is, hey, I can sort of almost like read your mind. I can speak to you and I may not be using words, but you can interpret what it is I'm saying. Levitation. There have been people who, what is levitation? Where your body moves and raises and goes up like that. Yeah. And people going into a trance. If you have someone at your home who is telling you they're hearing voices, they're seeing things, but they're not going into any trance, right? They're not going into any weirdness. Yeah. That might be more. Leave that to the psychologist and the psychiatrist. Okay? All right. The last one, actually not the last one. I have one more for you. Number 5 is the claim to be possessed. What does that mean? If somebody tells you that they're possessed, they probably are not possessed. Dr. Waterhouse says. If they tell you they're possessed, they probably are not. Why? Because in according to him, many people who have both clinical experience, like a psychologist, plus experience with our priests and the people who do that kind of work, they believe that those who claim to be possessed are not possessed, because in that realm, demons wish to be secretive and do not voluntarily claim to be present. Okay? The last one is the effects of therapy. Okay, so your person at your home is acting in a way that you don't understand and you want to figure out, well, what's going on? If prayer solves the problem, and when you take them to the priest or the pastor who prays for them, who does what they do with them, if the problem goes away, okay. But if the problem continues, or if the person is administered medication and the problem goes away, clearly you're dealing with a brain-based disorder. So what do I want you to take away from this? If medicine helps alleviate the problem, it was not a demon possession. But I'm going to tell you that I have received myself calls from like religious to evaluate people before they do an exorcism. What's an exorcism? In some religions, like Catholic religion, yeah? An exorcism is where the religious person casts out, so to speak, the demon. Okay? So, what that means is the church that many of us grew up in, was raised in, does believe that demon possession is a thing. The Catholic Church believes demon possession is a thing. The Catholic Church trains exorcists. Yeah? The Catholic Church is around the globe. Before an exorcism is conducted, a church or a reputable, most religious or Christian pastors or whomever will ask the family to get a psychological evaluation first to rule out that there's no psychiatric condition, like there's no real psychosis happening. Does that help you tonight, my Dominica people? Does that help you tonight? So my point is that for me, I don't think that just because I don't understand a thing that it doesn't exist. I don't think that just because I don't have evidence of a thing, it doesn't exist. To me, that's preposterous and unnecessary. Number two, I grew up in a culture where that is like, it's just a part of the culture. And so any culture you're working with, you're living with, it's imperative that you put time into understanding the people's culture before you decide that just because you have no awareness of it, you don't understand how it could be, that you decide that they're not well or they're slow or, not educated or whatever. You take into account people's culture and where they're coming from, and then you work with that. So your takeaway tonight is, if somebody's telling you that somebody put something on my child, I encourage you to have the person or help your family member, your friend, direct them towards the psychological field first and have them rule all of that out, have them administer medication if that is warranted, do talk therapy if that is warranted, before we go to the exorcist. I mean, yes, go to your pastor, your priest, pray for support and whatever else, but I encourage you not to just jump from my child is hearing voices to demon possession, because your child could end up suffering for a long time, if you don't want to explore the mental, the brain realm. Okay? So, do you have any stories about Sukuya and La Jarles and Lugau? Anybody ever PIA you? You know any stories? But yeah, as a hypnotherapist, I am fully aware that people can have attachments and entities, and their processes to give people relief from that. Yeah, so they can continue successfully in life. So yeah, it is kind of a strange thing in certain schools of psychology, because psychology is about evidence, and sometimes as a psychologist, you don't necessarily want to say that in my culture, hey, we believe in these things, whatever. And if these things, if whatever that belief system is, can cause such pain, the job of the psychologist is to bring relief. So we better understand it. We better understand where this person is coming from, as opposed to just saying, nonsense, there is no evidence of this. Clearly you have a brain-based disorder, because there are many instances, I'm sure many of you can attest to, where you go to the right person and many people get relief. So, yes or no? Jackie says, good evening to all of you. Good evening. Simone, how are you? Jessica is saying, hi, Jessica. Jessica says, this is such an interesting topic. I had an in-depth discussion with 3 psychiatrists about this topic. All 3 had different opinions on the matter. However, one psychiatrist made an interesting point. Adolescent brains are still in the developmental stage and can more easily be manipulated by demonic possession. This is a well-developed adult brain. You're thinking about psychosis. I agree with you. The other thing I think about is, say you have a young child and the family is saying, my child is, I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old who is presenting in a way that looks like psychosis, but the family believes is demonic possession. It's so much harder with a younger child, because the child cannot necessarily as clearly explain to you what's going on. Yeah. I also think too that I'm not sure that definitely in the Caribbean, I don't know that we do enough physical ruling out of potential causes of psychosis besides schizophrenia, right? So think of a brain tumor, yeah, or maybe the person is inhaling some sort of environmental toxin that you might not even be able to test to see is that what might be going on versus demonic possession. Yeah. Clement says he's tuned in. It's been quite a while. How are you? I hope you're well. You say it's a very interesting topic and subject matter. So I want to go over again what to look for if you're a family member and your child, again, you, your relative, is suffering. And, you know, a lot of our suffering comes from what we believe. So if I believe that somebody put a spirit on me, I'm going to be in a lot of suffering. Yeah, I'm going to be in a lot of suffering. And our aim is to relieve suffering in the world, help everybody live their best life. I shared on a live recently that when I was a little girl, I think if I had a different mindset, I might have believed that somebody put a thing on me because an older lady in the village said, what does that mean in English? That means I will see your end. And she was using, I think, fear to try to intimidate or control me. Yeah, but because I had a family who could explain to me and talk to me and say, oh no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just pray. Yeah, God loves you. Yeah, I never assumed that thought form, that thought form that she was offering to me in rage. Yeah. I didn't receive it, but I think a lot of people receive those thought forms from other people. I will destroy you. I will be good for you. I will whatever, Some people receive that. I think what Jessica is suggesting is important because a child is much less able to be firm, in their boundaries as far as what they receive energy-wise from other people. So an adult, if you say that to an adult will be like, get out of here with that foolishness. But a child might go home and spend months and months and months unable to sleep because they're terrified that something horrible might happen to them. Yeah. So thought forms in the psycho-spiritual realm are very important for you to pay attention to. That's why somebody might tell you, hey, watch who you surround yourself with, watch what you receive. And even when people send information to you, you can choose intentionally, delete. I don't receive this. This is not, I'm not absorbing this, whatever it is you're saying. Hi, Veronica. How are you? And Lenora. Hi, Heather. Glenda is listening from New Jersey. Hi, Julian. How are you? Very interesting topic, she says. I hope you all are having a lovely night. I want to go over what to look for because I know I'm talking to my people. All of us grew up in the culture. So, we know how intertwined the spiritual beliefs are, and sometimes it's very hard to separate it from real biological, psychological, mental health issues. But the thing is, for you to get the best outcome, you have to do the best assessment on the front end. So if you can, on the front end, realize, well, it's not a religious or spiritual thing, it's a brain thing, then you can get that help sooner rather than later. Good evening, Yvonne. How are you? Joe Sakafet. Clement again. Yes. But yes, as a hypnotherapist, like I said, I have clearly encountered energetic forms. But again, it's about love and, higher vibrations operating in in a vibration at a level where you can absorb whatever comes, because whatever is coming from that vibration, it's lower. So you have an umbrella vibration, you're okay, because everything else is at a lower grade. You understand, so to speak. Chiketo Sakafet, blessed night to you. Yan Yan, you're tuned in. Beliefs are powerful. Your belief is going to make you or break you. Your belief is going to bring you illness, or it's going to bring you great health in large measure. Yeah. So it's very important, I think, especially for our kids, because a lot of our kids maybe cannot even explain why they feel anxious. But, I mean, for our kids nowadays, yes, they have electricity. Well, for the people in Dominica, when Dominic is not turning the electricity off, yeah. But depending on where you are, it might get dark early. When you have all of these stories around you pulsating in your head as a child, it can be terrifying. It can be terrifying. And so a lot of people live and exist, kids, with that level of anxiety. They just don't know what they're afraid of, but they're afraid. They have this. But a lot of it is these stories. Stories. So yes, so let me review for you what to look for. How do you distinguish? Okay? Is this a biological thing, or is this a psycho-spiritual Christian kind of demonic situation? Yeah? Attraction versus aversion to religion. Somebody who's just having a normal biological brain-based situation is going to be fine with Dr. Waterhouse says, with continuing their faith, believing in God, in Christ, and their religion, whatever that was. Okay? If the person is not, and they develop an aversion, meaning they're like that, they don't want to deal with that anymore, for him, that's a sign that you're dealing with demonic possession. Number 2, irrational speech versus rational speech. Rational speech, according to him, demonic stuff, clear thinking, all right, can tell you things, yeah, that makes sense. Schizophrenia, psychotic disorders involve a lot of confusion in language. So they their tongue they just create new words, or they put a salad. It's called a word salad, where they just put words that don't match in the same sentence. It won't be like that if there's demonic possession. That's what you're dealing with. Number 3, ordinary learning versus supernatural knowledge. Supernatural knowledge, the same way as the demons in the Bible were telling Jesus certain things. Yeah. An ordinary person with a brain-based event, he says, is not going to suddenly become wise and smart to that point where they can spit out all of this knowledge. Number 4, he says normal phenomena versus secret, weird, strange, occultic phenomena. He says something like, if you see a person levitating, if you see a person, in a trance, or able to use telepathy, that is more in the realm of demonic possession versus a biological illness like schizophrenia or psychotic disorder. Number 5, the claim to be possessed. If a person is telling you, I'm possessed, more than likely they are not possessed. They're dealing with a brain issue, he says. Right? Why? Because according to him, in that realm of demons and whatever else, demons are secretive. They don't want to just show themselves. Why would they show themselves? So you can call Father to come, release them. And finally, the effects of therapy. What therapy works? If prayer and going to your pastor is what works, and you're back to yourself. Because the thing is, if it's a brain situation, it's not going to go away except if you change the chemistry of the brain. Okay? So your takeaway is, if medicine helps alleviate the problem, it was not demon possession. Okay? And again, most reputable, religious organizations who are really serious about exorcism and stuff like that will ask the family to go do a psychological evaluation prior to them praying with you or doing anything related to that with you. Okay? All right, y'all. Julian is saying if we know our family background, the history helps absolutely to define between mental health and demon possession. That's another big, very important clue, y'all. Okay, so in some cultures, people don't say they had depression. When we grew up, I promise you, I did not know the word depression. I didn't know that word or stress in a real way until I started Ole Miss. And I was 22, 23 when I started Ole Miss. Okay? And I learned it because everybody in the culture was like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm stressed out. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, you know? So a lot of us, we hear our family saying stuff like, so-and-so has bad nerves. If you hear that, if you've heard that about a grandmother, an auntie, anybody in your bloodline, they had bad nerves or they had depression or they were sad or it took them a long time to get over a big loss or something like that, right? Or there are some people who always get into fights. I'm telling y'all, very often that's a mental health challenge going on here, right? And I don't just mean physical fights, I mean verbal fights. There are people who, especially with women are not as quick as men to do physical fighting, but they will drag you. They do the equivalent in the streets. They will drag you. They're fighting with you. Yeah, they're fighting with you. But normal, when I say normal, I mean people whose brains are working, without interruption. Yeah, they tend to not do these things. Okay, so you want to know if there's that in your biological history, because very often your chances to have mental health challenges is connected to your biology. Okay, plus what's happening in your environment, because depending on how stressful your environment is, it'll show up maybe sooner than depending on where you are. Okay. Hi, Vendetta. Hi, Wendy. Hiya. How are you? Yeah, y'all. So, I know we have strong religious beliefs, and those things are very powerful because they influence how we think about ourselves, how we think about life, how we view situations in life. But again, just remember, it's not just the devil. And I think we hire the devil a lot. So put the devil on ice and go to your therapist first. Okay, go to a doctor first. If that doesn't work and you've gone to 10 doctors, okay, call father, call the priest. All right, or call your pastor. Okay, y'all. I hope you have a lovely rest of your Thursday evening. Sleep well, and I will see you all on Kindness and Coffee tomorrow, Lord willing. Also, next Thursday at this time, fabulous program for you next Thursday. I'm talking to Gail Bruni of Dominica, who's the creator of Heal and Go. She is creating beautiful products for natural hair. See, I'm not wearing my natural hair tonight, but next week, more than likely, I'll be wearing my natural hair. There's a lot of trauma associated to black hair. And a lot of us have to recover in the way we love our hair, how we deal with our hair, how we talk to people about our hair. Ooh, it's a lot. And that's what we're talking about next week, Thursday. Okay, I hope you all show up as well, and I hope you take great care of yourselves. Okay, Faidashin says this information is timely. Yes. I think a lot of people are very stressed about this obia and black magic and spirits and this and that. Very stressed. I will tell you something that I learned along the way of life. Love is the highest vibration. So take that and do what you want to with it. Love is the highest vibration for yourself and for other people. Okay. Albie says some of them don't call father, they go to the Obia man. That's another source. That's another source. Yeah, they go to the professional in that realm. Heather says, thanks for an informative information session. Thank you so much. God bless you too, Clement. I hope you have a lovely evening. Jackie says, so don't call the voodoo priest. Well, you have a right to do whatever you want, but what I'm saying is, depending on the 6 categories, I would say go to your psychologist first. Again, most religious organizations want you to do a psychological evaluation first, so they themselves can rule out any psychosis. Okay, so they know, okay, this person is a regular person. There's no psychosis there based on the professional evaluation, and then they tell you, okay, it's okay, bring the person. Okay. We must continue this topic. It's been ignored. Julian, it's been ignored, and it is so powerful. Like I'm telling you, it's so powerful because these thought forms, these kinds of ways of thinking, if you don't apply love and high vibration to them, they weigh people down. They hold people back. They cause a lot of psychological pressure. And I'm telling you all the answer. The answer is very simple. It's no work. It's love. It's self-love and other love. Love for humanity. Love for yourself. Love for humanity. It's higher than all of the other. It's higher than rage. So the old lady who told me she would see what adult in their right mind anyway says to a 7-year-old, I will see your end. What could a 7-year-old little girl have done to you that you want to see her end? You see what I'm saying? And so, like I said earlier, if the little 7-year-old doesn't have support, or enough information with a small brain, a small mind, level of development wise, that child might develop a complex and start thinking, oh my God, I need to be terribly afraid. And I think a lot of people perhaps had similar experiences. I want to make that kind of guess, in various ways, in different forms where you might have had older people look at you and just say nasty things or whatever, and a lot of people are carrying these attachments, these negative wishes of other people for them. And they're holding it on. Oh, they said I would never be a such and such. And you continue to live as if they determine your life. No, you have to do your work to figure that out. Okay? And reset all that. Release all that. Clement says he will definitely review and recap. Yes, y'all share the live, okay? Because I do believe too many people are suffering unnecessarily, because the other flip side is a lot of us, we go straight to it's a demon possession, it's a spirit, and we keep spending money and making the voodoo priest rich. They're getting all the money, and the money you could be using to, give your child a little medication, and their brain is right again. Okay. All right, y'all. Have a lovely Thursday night. We will talk again soon. Peace.